Joining us now for a closer look at the operational realities on the water is Captain Zarir Irani, the chairman of Constellation Marine Services and one of the region's most experienced maritime consultants with over 35 years at sea. Hello, and thank you for joining us from land.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having us.
So, first of all, I mean, given your experience in this business and long days and weeks and months at sea, we're focusing on the economic impact, but we have to remember that there are over 20,000 mariners and 1,500 vessels stuck. What is that experience like?
Very scary for them, I must say. Being out at sea, it's bad enough to be outside and away from family. But I must say that it is an extremely difficult situation for our seafarers who do not know when they're getting relieved, nor do they know where the next voyage is planned for. Not only for them, it is also worrisome for those families who are at home worrying about their wards who are on these ships, because there are uncertainties and there are still reports of spannels and missiles flying over the heads, and even vessels being reported being attacked at anchorages around the west coast of UAE.
So what happens? I mean, how do they get access to food? Are they, is there power? Is there a place to even plug in a phone? Are they completely off the radar and off the grid?
No, they have generators on board, and there is fuel supply. And also, of course, the more important thing is water, because ships generate water when they move at sea. But when they're static, the freshwater generation is challenging. But I can tell you that at least on the UAE coastline, the supplies for essentials like water and food are pretty easily available. But that's for vessels which are at Dubai anchorage, Sharjah anchorage, Ras Al Khaimah anchorage. Again, it was not very normal for vessels to have water coming in barges to them, because ships usually get these essential supplies when they come alongside and when they are in harbor. So there are connections and hoses where they just top up their fresh water and carry on the voyage in case they need. When they are on active sea voyages, they don't even need that. So these are problems. But then there is rationing on board, and the bigger problem is for vessels which are inwards, away from the coastline, not in territorial waters of coastal states like Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, UAE being the most convenient port for these kind of supplies at the moment.
Are there any kind of rerouting options, around the Cape using alternative pipelines?
Once they're in, they're in. Unless they get out of the Hormuz, they can't fly out, unfortunately. So rerouting is an option when vessels are not coming inside the Arabian Gulf, may I say. But if they're in, they have to somehow find a way, with or without cargo, to get out and then find a charter and go out. There are vessels, and general ship owners are doing this. Vessels keep steaming up and down in the Gulf, so that they can generate water. But that's an expensive way of generating water, by burning fuel to keep the freshwater generator going.
It's weird to think that there's power. It's counterintuitive that it's hard to get water when they're stuck in the water. It's hard to wrap your head around, but I know it's serious. Finally, before we go, given that you have decades of experience in the Gulf, what's the one thing the public or policymakers could be underestimating about the long-term impact, on the shipping industry and the global economy?
Look, I personally feel that getting crew relieved is a very, very important aspect to be considered. People on board ships who have finished their contracts or have real emergencies at home, they are finding it extremely difficult for getting relievers, because nobody in the right sense wants to fly in onto a ship which is in the war zone. Even if there is war allowance thrown at them, even then it is extremely hard for them to get relieved when the contracts are finished or emergency. So for those owners and for those family members, I must say you got to hold on to it. These are unfortunately hard times, very unusual. But if we can, by the way, in and out of UAE, if there are willing crew to join those vessels, crew change is possible. I've lived in UAE for 22 years. I'm on a holiday right now in my hometown in Pune. But I can tell you from sources that I know as late as yesterday that there is crew change happening quite actively. There's water supply happening at Anchorage. There are about 200 plus vessels in Dubai Anchorage, being one of the most active ports where water supply and food and ration and fuel is being supplied to these vessels. So it is happening, but it is far and few. Like I said, logistics are a problem. There are hardly 2 or 3 barges which are going in and out with water, with water trying to supply to those many vessels who are in need. So it is possible, but it is a desperate situation. It is not normal, and it is worrisome to those at sea on board those ships and to their families.
All right. Thank you very much. Very, very interesting to learn what it's really like on the inside. Captain Zarir Irani, thank you again.
Thank you for having us. Pleasure.